It was meant to be a happy day, a day to celebrate. A proud and loving attachment is formed when a father honors his son. The legendary Harlem rapper Jim Jones recently shared a touching birthday ode to his son, Putty. Jim commented, "Happy B-Day. To my real twin, he got 23 of mine," while grinning in the video, which also featured champagne, candles, and background laughter. But a few hours later, that happiness was brutally torn away. What was supposed to be a fun-filled evening became an unimaginable horror. Chaos broke out just before midnight. Across Manhattan, sirens screamed. The phones kept ringing. News of a horrific vehicle accident close to Lenox Avenue quickly spread. Single name was murmured and then verified: Jones. Pudai. Seriously hurt, unconscious, bleeding. In a trauma unit. Jim Jones' kid, whom he had just celebrated, now stood on the brink of death. And that was only the start. Due to what transpired following the accident, something more darker than anyone anticipated is suggested by the released surveillance footage. The enigmatic Instagram story and the enigmatic SUV driver who ran away. And now, the same question is being asked by everyone. Was this an accident? A rapper? Jim Jones has always been more than that. He is a Harlem icon, a hustler, and a survivalist who made his name on the streets. Jim's legacy was never solely about music. From the early days of Dipset to his tenacity in numerous public conflicts, it was also about family, loyalty, and always standing up for your people. And he rode harder for his son, Putty, than for anyone else. Putty was simply Jim Jones' child to outsiders. But to the people who truly know Harlem and the core Dipset, Circle Putty was the next in line, the heir. He spent his childhood sitting courtside, surrounded by bright lights, and interacting with hip-hop superstars on Instagram stories. But Putty wasn't pampered or quiet like other famous kids. He exuded the same gritted pride that his father used to establish his empire. He was Jim's reflection, not only a shadow of him, but there's always pressure to be famous. What about the streets? Jones is a name they never forget. Insiders claim that rivals, not fans, were keeping an eye on Putty behind the scenes. A now-deleted tweet appeared a couple weeks before to his birthday. It said, "Remember that legacies also fall, Harlem." Hashtag real ones. No, initially, nobody listened. Perhaps it was just internet chatter. Perhaps it was aimed at another person. However, given what has transpired, that particular role is currently being closely scrutinized. The 22-year-old Putty had just gained attention of his own. There were rumors about a debut mixtape. He was seen at several business gatherings, some of which included well-known executives from record labels. Days before his birthday, he even shared a mysterious reel that was a video montage of his early years and concluded with the following: "Now is my moment. Pay close attention." Since then, that reel has been removed. Perhaps, though, his father garnered the most attention. On May 21st, Jim Jones shared a plethora of images, videos, and intimate captions early in the morning. The internet adored it. Thousands of fans left comments. However, a lot of people were unaware that this message might have been the catalyst, because a terrible tragedy happened just hours following that post. Several sources claim that Putty had organized a small supper for a select group of close pals. No club, no red carpet, no paparazzi. They had only rented a private place in Harlem. Till it was time to depart, everything went smoothly. Around 11:47 p.m., a blacked-out SUV without license plates or identification crashed through a red light and struck Putty's silver BMW on the passenger side. It had a terrible effect. According to witnesses, the vehicle veered out of control and struck a light post. The odd part is that the SUV continued to drive, as like the collision were a message. Rather than an accident, it slowed down and then sped away. Jim, too. Few minutes later, he received the call. A voicemail from one of Putty's boys lasting 30 seconds. "We urgently need you at Harlem General Unk. Putty's hit. Man, it's bad. It's bad. After that, everything was different. Jim apparently broke down in the hospital hallway and reached the emergency room within 15 minutes. He can be seen clutching his chest and whispering, "God, no," on security footage. Taken inside the hospital, not in this manner. Not my son. He wasn't by himself. Freaky Zeke, another member of Dipset, showed up shortly after. Although he reportedly remained outside and didn't enter, Cameron did the same. Why? Everyone is interested in knowing that. There is friction within Dipset, and this accident may have revealed more than anyone was prepared for, according to some insider rumors. But soon, more on it. All we now know is this: the proudest day of Decos. A father turned into his worst nightmare. Now a son's promising future is in jeopardy, and Harlem's streets, they're humming. They're looking for answers. In the event that this wasn't an accident, then someone wanted to harm Jim Jones in the most heinous manner imaginable. There was silence in the streets, not the typical buzz in Harlem, not traffic in the middle of the night. The lingering sound of incredulity akin to smoke from a fire. Officially, word had spread that Putty Jones was critically ill. What's the cause? Hit and run. However, the specifics didn't add up. At that point, everything started to fall apart. The SUV left the scene, according to the official police report. However, nobody brought up the discovery made close to the collision. One anonymous source within the hospital claims that a ripped piece of cloth with blood that didn't match Putty's was found in the back seat. After being turned over to investigators, the evidence allegedly disappeared in a matter of hours, lost, as if it had never existed. The questions began to mount now. In the SUV, who was it? Why was the license plate taken off the car? And why did Putty's automobile get slammed out of all the cars on the road that evening? This is where things start to change. Not even a day after the accident, a leaked traffic cam image of a black Escalade with tinted windows lurking 2 blocks behind Putty's BMW in the final minutes of the collision started making the rounds on a Reddit thread called "This Wasn't Random." The timestamp of the picture, 7 minutes prior to impact. The route was analyzed by Reddit users. According to one idea, Putty had been being followed by the SUV ever since he left the restaurant. Now pinned at the top, one comment said, "There was no hit and run there. It was a message." The objective was Jim Jones. However, who would act in such a manner? Why now, too? Let's go back in time. Jim and Ma $E were left to carry on the conversation when Cameron was not present. And things quickly became personal. Jim was involved in a heated podcast dispute on It Is What It Is just a week before to this event. Jim alluded to snakes in suits and those attempting to rewrite the history of Dipset. Fans connected the links even though he didn't name people. In a recently removed Instagram reel, Cameron seems to make fun of a certain rapper for clout chasing with your own son's name. People wondered if this was a jab at Jim. If so, why was Cameron? Why was Cam seen outside the hospital but not inside? But in comparison to what transpired afterward, the drama seemed insignificant. A video that was leaked from inside the hospital security system was the first twist. And it happened just 36 hours after the tragedy. Despite just lasting 12 seconds, completely stunned the fans. Jim Jones was seen on camera yelling at someone outside of Putty's room. And that individual appeared to be Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin. Why had she gone there? For what reason were they fighting? What did she want to conceal? In the video, a voice can be heard faintly. You warned him not to come this evening. Something was wrong, and you knew it. The clip then ends. The fans went crazy. Hashtags like #WhoSetUpPoo and #ChrissyKnew were all over Twitter. Phony yet widely shared tweet asserted. According to an insider, Chrissy cautioned Jim against letting Putty out that evening. This is more profound. Observe Cameron's quiet hours before to the incident. A purported text discussion between Putty and his mother was shared by another account. Said Putty, "I'm going even though he's going to be upset. Mom, just keep quiet. They are still. Observing you, it made no difference if the texts were artificial intelligence, AI, or real. Like wildfire, they spread." It was now evident that the internet had taken a side. This was more than just a terrible mishap. It was beginning to resemble a set dash-up. What about the suspect list? Got longer every hour. The press made an effort to stay awake. TMZ published an ambiguous headline, "Closed source." Prior to the crash, there was tension in the family. An even hotter version was shared by the Shade Room. "You guys. It's possible that someone from inside knew." Charlemagne Thaw God, meanwhile, left a mysterious remark on The Breakfast Club. "In this line of work, your adversaries may be sitting at your dinner table rather than across the street." Every theory was being spun by the supporters. In a 28-minute analysis titled "How the Dipset Feud Might Have Led to Putty's Crash," one YouTuber even included overanalyzed Instagram likes, behind-the-scenes videos, and slowed-down versions of past interviews. However, beneath the rumors and memes was a worried parent. All press had been canceled by Jim Jones. Darkened on social media, his most recent post was a simple 3-word black square. This not at all over. And the atmosphere was entirely altered by just 3 words, because it was more than simply a tragedy now. It was like a war breaking out. Insiders claim that Jim employed private security in private. Outside Harlem General, additional security was stationed. He even made contact with past co-workers, would not been seen with him in a long time. For if this was a set dash-up ... he would discover who had done it. Additionally, sure that they paid. However, right when the internet believed that things couldn't get any worse ... everything changed. When a fresh clip was leaked, just as everyone was starting to catch their breath. A fresh video leak exploded on social media like a bomb. A private Instagram account named @RealHarlemArchives posted a 25-second surveillance video at precisely 9:43 p.m. that had never been seen before. The exact crash was captured on camera from the rooftop of a distant building. Putty's BMW is shown driving regularly in the video. Be calm, managed. Then whoa. Suddenly, without warning, a black SUV crashes into the intersection without using its brakes. It makes no effort to slow down. The BMW is nearly completely rotated by the impact before colliding with a light pole. But the particular detail that caused havoc on the internet: 2 arms were visible and the SUV's windows were down. One with a phone in hand, the other one a firearm. Yes, you read correctly, a firearm. Multiple content providers' freeze frame analysis reveals what seems to be a gun's glimmer immediately before the SUV leaves the frame. Some even assert that boosting the bass can produce a muffled pop in the recording. This wasn't just a crash. All of a sudden, the hit was attempted. What about Putty? May have been the target before the SUV ever touched down. There was a flurry of theories. There were frame-by-frame breakdowns on TikTok. Potential culprits were exposed by Twitter discussions. According to one widely shared tweet, "This isn't an accident, you know?" For years, the Jones family has faced criticism. Someone waited to approach him till his birthday, a few blocks away. From the collision, another camera showed a hooded man dropping something in a storm drain. Fans continued to speculate, despite the police not verifying the footage, it was the gun. According to some thought it was Putty's chain, a distinctive iced-out pendant that he wore in almost all of the videos, and that oddly wasn't mentioned in the hospital's inventory. What location is it? Nobody is aware. However, it was evident that this was not a haphazard incident of street violence. This was prearranged. Everyone was now looking for answers. The press had a great time. The internet was inundated with new headlines. New footage suggests a birthday attack targeted at Putty Jones. Was Jim Jones warned by this? Is Dipset beef back and more common than ever early? Stranger still, at last Cameron said something. Instead of using Instagram or Twitter, he sent a brief statement on Threads. Threads. Don't be shocked when the scoreboard changes if you play. Street games. Hashtag Harlem always knows. The fans went crazy. Did he know something then? Was Cam attempting to be disparaging? Or did he want to alert Jim? The crazy aspect is that Cameron reportedly dropped out of an impending tape of It Is What It Is with Jim just 2 days before to the disaster. There was no explanation. There is no confirmed replacement guest. Simply ... quiet. Was he pulling away from it? Or did he anticipate something? A phony insider leak that claimed Jim had been informed 3 days prior hit the blogs in a surprising turn of events. He allegedly sent his team an encrypted email with the following title: 21st equals family or funeral. Make an informed decision. It made little difference if the email was authentic or a sophisticated fraud. The damage was already done. Fans were now looking into a conspiracy rather than merely conjecturing about a crash. One fan notion gained widespread attention. What if Putty wasn't the intended victim? What if it was about leveraging Jim's closest loved one to deliver a message? To him, it wouldn't be the first time a hip-hop artist was slain by family. Do you recall the incident involving 50 Cent's grandmother? Or the cousin of Nipsey Hussle? Although revenge of this nature is not new, it is always terrible. In the meanwhile, the hospital sent this succinct but terrifying update. Putty Jones is still in a coma that was brought on by medicine. Physicians are keeping an eye on internal damage and cerebral swelling. No more remarks. Coma brought on by medicine. Fans were deeply affected by that. Celebrities began to express support as well. Fat Joe, congratulations to Jimmy, the big brother. We are present. This is too close to home, said DJ Envy. Keep your children safe. Menno, this is no longer street shit. It's war. However, Remy Ma had the loudest response, tweeting, "You're going to pretend that you didn't notice the warning. Signs until another young king has passed away. It's not safe in Harlem. Keep your sons safe." That tweet, deleted in less than 10 minutes. However, the screenshots were previously widely available. This was when the city was tense. The facility was constantly surrounded by Harlem police officers. There were rumors that Jim, fearing a second strike, was going to temporarily leave New York. Others asserted that he was preparing by contacting former Bird Gang pals to go around the neighborhood. Nobody knew if the response would be street style or legal. However, the second twist that broke everything happened next. An anonymous post was made to a dark web private forum. It was a brief post. Chili, Phase 1 complete is the only title. The post's body stated, "Blood is the language when it's the only way to be heard." They warned him. This was only the start. Harlem forgot its owner. The post was swiftly removed. However, not before screen grabs appeared on YouTube discussion channels, Reddit, and X, previously Twitter. The supporters weren't inquiring as to whether this was a targeted attack. They wanted to know who would be next. And just when many believed it couldn't get much better, a local reporter in New York received an enigmatic phone call, a changed voice, a brief message. Examine the light pole next to 121st. Find the scratch. What did they discover? Perhaps the most unsettling composition to date. What transpired next demonstrated that this was more than simply an online moment. Even if the internet was in a full-blown frenzy, it turned into an earthquake of culture. Fans, influencers, and the hip-hop industry as a whole started to react as if the whole game had suddenly changed. And in Harlem streets, the whispers became intense strain. There were many police officers present. Overhead, helicopters flew. Like vultures, cameras swarmed Harlem General. Jim Jones was the center of attention. However, streets began to speak for him before he could. Trending fan responses, videos of followers sobbing, yelling, and speculating were all over Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. A teary-eyed teenager wearing a Dipset hoodie was featured in one video that went viral. Growing up, I watched Putty on his father's stories. We watched him mature. On his own birthday, he's now battling for his life. This isn't correct. A reaction montage of Jim and Putty over the years, including their laughter, embraces, and music recordings, was shared by another user. It then cut to flashing ambulance lights and the aftermath of the crash. Caption: "They did more than simply wreck his vehicle. They destroyed a tradition." #Justice for Pooh Die became popular. Threads saw #ProtectJimJones soar to the top. And one post that really rocked the web. A tweet viewed more than 4 million times. "None of our babies are safe if Jim Jones' son can experience this on his birthday." Industry reactions and celebrities. Then the industry awoke. And it wasn't a calm moment. Cameron's quiet was constantly criticized. Supporters wanted explanations. Additionally, Juelz Santana, a Dipset affiliate, tweeted something terrifying. Even though he didn't speak directly again, years ago, they issued a warning. "Old beef never goes bad. It waits." Never one to keep quiet. DJ Academics said on a 2-hour live stream titled "Putty" was targeted. Here's what they don't want you to know: that 3 prominent NYC teams knew that a hit was planned for someone close to a Harlem OG, even Funk Flex of Hot 97, who often stays away from discussing conflict, broke character while live on air. This isn't news about music. It's a personal matter. It's family. Jim and Harlem are not deserving of this. But 50 Cent's response was arguably the most surprising. He captioned a photo of Jim Jones that he shared on Instagram. "It's not appropriate to act tough right now. It's time to safeguard your reputation. Take care of it." The comments went wild. 50 knows what's going on. Waits, is this a warning or support? Someone is up against Dipset, but we don't yet know who they are. Leaks and fake news reports stir the pate. Number of phony blogs claimed Putty had died and posted fictitious hospital updates, which prompted posts of sadness that had to be taken down within an hour. However, the harm had already been done. Rumors turned into memories. On purpose, the distinction between fact and conjecture was blurred. One widely shared YouTube video purported to show a nurse on the inside, disclosing Putty's true whereabouts, while another implied Jim had struck a covert agreement with law enforcement to find the gunman, offering $100,000 for any confirmed video or identification of the SUV driver. Even more sinister notions erupted in Reddit threads. What if Putty knew something about this? Was there anything he was recording? Was there something he shouldn't have seen? Disagreement among the supporters. There were differing opinions on what transpired. The internet started to divide into groups. Group A thinks Jim Jones was the target of this gang-related warning. Group B believes that this was related to music industry rivalry, particularly the historical repercussions from the Dipset. Group C, one comment went viral, claiming it was an inside job. Putty was set up by someone in his own social circle. Without intelligence, you can't hit a target that accurately. Arguments turned into conflicts. The comments became heated. Friends stopped following one another. Even Putty's cousin, who was purportedly in charge of the @PuttyElegacy Instagram profile, shared, "You guys aren't living our real life by making up conspiracies like this. Don't use Putty's name in your fanfiction." However, the drama persisted. It doubled. The light pole scratch. Do you recall the anonymous tip from the previous section? Reporters did visit the 121st Street light pole. What did they discover? Behind a ripped flyer, a message was cut deeply, raggedly, and purposefully into the metal surface. Payback. The internet went down. Some referred to it as a phony setup. Some referred to it as a calling card. The Instagram story from an unidentified burner account then appeared. One black picture with bold white text. The initial blood sample was taken. The next one is going to drown. The account disappeared 24 hours later. Harlem, though, no longer quiet. It held its breath. The world believed that the dust would settle, but it didn't. It exploded once more. An anonymous drive-by video was posted to a dark Instagram fan archive at 3:12 a.m. Precisely 5 days after the crash. Don't use hashtags, no location markers, no captions. The description of the video just contains one sentence. You didn't lock your house, and we witnessed everything. The film. The back window of Jim Jones' family house is the subject of a 9-second, blurry video that appears to have been taken with a zoomed-in phone lens. Through the glass, too. A man, dressing entirely in black. The face became blurry, bending over a computer, according to supporters. Putty recorded his music on the same laptop. However, this is where it becomes unsettling. Jim wasn't that man. Jim, too, was seen at the hospital a few hours prior. Who was inside his home, then who was able to access it? What did they want to find? The sound recording that revolutionized everything, a voice note that had been released, hit the websites later. That day, it was purportedly from a Jim-related dipset affiliate. Although muffled, the speech is audible. Hey, look at the files. The boy was actually filming stuff. It's not music. He discovered something, bro. It's a confession. He saved it. So if they hit him, it's because of that. The internet went down. Hold on. What an admission. What sort of admission? According to one Twitter thread, Putty might have unintentionally captured a private conversation in which a prominent Harlem figure discussed previous hits, payoffs, and betrayals. This conversation could have severely damaged whole legacies. 1. More theory. Cudi was on the verge of releasing the audio as part of his debut mixtape's docuseries-style opening. A launch in the style of a raw exposure would have been revolutionary. But before he had a chance, the collision took place. Jim's unexpected action. Jim Jones finally spoke the next morning in an unfiltered, emotionally damaged audio post on Instagram rather than via a press release or a video. You're mistaken if you believe I'm unaware of what's going on or that I'm not aware of who is observing me. I grew up in Harlem. Just know that I'm still here if this is what you all wanted. And Putty will get up and speak. The last sentence. You all believed that this was the end. But it's the opening. The fans went crazy. Comments were rife with, what is he getting at? What's the introduction? Is he going to make a mistake? Was Putty about to reveal Harlem royalty? Bro, it's the secret audio recording. A 17-second audio file with the following title appeared on Reddit and Telegram hours later as an unconfirmed leak. P_final_mix_v1.mp3. A young man's voice can be heard saying, I was going to remain silent, but they took it personally. Check the hard drive beneath the studio table in case I get hurt. You'll comprehend everything. After 3 loud knocks, there is silence. The internet is now looking into it rather than just worrying. A spectacular conclusion. Putty is still in a coma as of right now. Jim has secured his house. A laptop has vanished. The drive beneath the table absent. Additionally, a fan page received one final anonymous report this morning. The driver of the SUV is still there. He is anticipating part 2 all of a sudden. Putty is no longer the focus. This is larger, deeper, dirtier. A legacy is crumbling. An empire is collapsing. What about Harlem? Harlem is preparing for another blast. For whatever reason, Putty knew for it. They were prepared to kill, and it didn't work now. They are returning to complete the task. Therefore, what happened is no longer the question. It is the next step because someone attempted to silence a heritage, a son or a witness. Putty's quiet though. All it does is increase the volume of the noise. Was he simply a casualty of a pointless collision? Or was this a planned takedown aimed at the one thing Jim Jones was never able to combat with guns or bars? Defeat. As well as the files, it leaks. The murmurs. There are too many indicators. There are too many shadows. That night, who was inside the house? What's burying that voice memo? What did Putty know that made him a target? Above all else, This is no longer merely a dipset tale. This is the most sinister enigma in Harlem, and I promise you that this is not the end of the narrative. We're keeping an eye on everything, each quiet, each no comment. Because when the fog finally gives way to the truth, it may just destroy everything. It's your turn now. What do you suppose transpired that evening? Was Putty the objective of someone else's conflict, or was she caught in it? Do you believe Jim is already aware of the truth but isn't prepared to speak it aloud? Post your hypotheses in the comments section. If you believe that the truth is still unknown, please like this video. The next update could blast this case wide open. So subscribe immediately. This goes beyond news about celebrities. This is a story you won't want to miss. Full of real drama and peril.